people don't suddenly lose interest in you. That's the lie your mind tells you because the truth is much harder to accept. Human emotions almost never change overnight. Long before someone becomes cold, distant, or emotionally unavailable, something invisible already started changing inside their mind. And the terrifying part is, most people never notice it happening until it's too late. Think about it. One day someone replies instantly, laughs at your jokes, wants your attention, asks about your day, and makes you feel important. Then slowly, the energy changes. Their messages become shorter. Their excitement fades. Conversations feel forced. You start overthinking every small detail, wondering what you did wrong. But psychology reveals something shocking about human behavior. People rarely pull away because of one big reason. They pull away because of silent emotional shifts that happen little by little beneath the surface. And tonight, you're going to understand exactly why this happens. Because once you see these psychological patterns, you'll never look at relationships the same way again. The human brain is addicted to emotional stimulation. In the beginning of every connection, whether it's friendship, love, or admiration, the brain experiences uncertainty. Uncertainty creates excitement. When someone doesn't fully know you yet, their imagination fills in the gaps. Your presence feels mysterious. Your attention feels valuable. Your personality feels new. Neuroscientists explain that novelty activates dopamine, the chemical responsible for pleasure, anticipation, and emotional excitement. That's why new relationships often feel addictive. But over time, familiarity replaces curiosity. The brain adapts. What once felt exciting starts feeling predictable. This doesn't mean you became less worthy. It means the brain stopped receiving the same emotional stimulation it once did. And this is where many people unknowingly destroy attraction. They become too available, too predictable, too emotionally dependent. The mystery disappears, and without mystery, curiosity slowly dies. One of the biggest psychological mistakes people make is believing that giving more attention will make someone stay interested. In reality, too much availability often lowers perceived value. Human beings are strange creatures. We naturally value things that feel scarce. This is called the scarcity principle in psychology. The less available something is, the more valuable it appears. That's why people obsess over limited edition products, rare opportunities, and emotionally unavailable individuals. The brain associates rarity with importance. But when someone becomes constantly available, constantly texting, constantly seeking validation, the emotional tension disappears. There's nothing left for the brain to chase. And the scary part is, most people don't realize they're slowly losing attraction while trying harder to keep it alive. Another reason people lose interest is emotional imbalance. Every relationship has an emotional exchange. Attention, effort, energy, understanding, affection. But when one person starts giving significantly more than the other, attraction can quietly collapse. Imagine someone constantly sacrificing their own happiness just to keep another person interested. At first it seems loving, but psychologically it creates a dangerous dynamic. The more one person chases, the more the other unconsciously pulls away. This happens because humans are deeply influenced by emotional positioning. We are naturally drawn toward people who appear emotionally secure, independent, and self-respecting. Desperation, even when hidden, changes how others perceive you. The brain starts associating emotional dependency with lower social value. That's why people who try the hardest to hold on to someone often end up pushing them away without realizing it. There's also another painful truth most people never talk about. Sometimes people lose interest because they were never emotionally attached in the first place. They were attached to the feeling you gave them. There's a massive psychological difference between loving a person and loving how that person makes you feel. Many individuals chase attention, validation, excitement, comfort, or distraction. The moment those emotional needs change, their behavior changes too. This is why some people disappear after they no longer need emotional support, entertainment, or validation from you. It feels personal, but often it's rooted in emotional self-interest. Human beings are driven by internal needs more than they admit. And once those needs evolve, relationships can suddenly feel emotionally empty. Modern psychology also reveals that people are constantly comparing their lives, relationships, and emotional experiences to unrealistic expectations. Social media has amplified this problem to dangerous levels. People are exposed to endless images of perfect relationships, perfect beauty, perfect lifestyles, and endless options. The brain starts developing what psychologists call grass is greener syndrome. Instead of appreciating emotional stability, people begin craving novelty and fantasy. They mistake temporary excitement for deep emotional connection. This is one reason attention spans in relationships have become weaker than ever before. Many people are no longer emotionally trained to handle consistency, boredom, or emotional depth. They become addicted to stimulation. And unfortunately, when someone constantly seeks new excitement, they may lose interest not because you lacked value, but because their brain became addicted to chasing something new. There's also the psychology of emotional certainty. At first, uncertainty creates attraction because the brain becomes curious. But once someone feels completely certain they can never lose you, they may unconsciously stop investing effort. This doesn't happen because they are evil. It happens because human motivation often depends on perceived risk. Think about how people behave before getting a job versus after feeling secure in it. Before security, effort is intense. After certainty, effort often decreases. Relationships can follow the same psychological pattern. When someone believes you will tolerate anything, forgive everything, and never leave, your emotional value can unconsciously decline in their mind. This is why self-respect and boundaries are psychologically powerful. They communicate emotional strength. And emotional strength is deeply attractive to the human brain. But maybe the most painful reason people lose interest is emotional disconnection. Human beings crave emotional resonance. We want to feel understood, stimulated, seen, and emotionally alive around someone. Surface-level conversations can only maintain attraction for so long. Eventually, relationships require emotional depth to survive. When conversations become repetitive, emotionally empty, or disconnected, the relationship slowly loses psychological intensity. This is why some people feel lonely even while talking every day. Words are being exchanged, but emotional connection is missing. Deep down, the human mind is searching for emotional meaning, not just interaction. Another disturbing psychological reality is that many people are attracted to emotional fantasy, not reality. In the beginning, people project idealized versions onto each other. They imagine perfection where it doesn't exist. This is called projection psychology. Instead of seeing who you truly are, they see who they hope you are. But eventually, reality breaks the fantasy. Small flaws appear. Differences become visible. Human imperfections emerge. And for emotionally immature individuals, the collapse of fantasy feels like loss of interest. In reality, they were never attached to the real you. They were attached to an illusion created inside their own mind. Childhood psychology also plays a terrifying role in adult attraction. Many people unconsciously repeat emotional patterns they experienced growing up. Someone raised around emotional inconsistency may unconsciously associate chaos with love. Stable affection feels unfamiliar to them. Another person raised without emotional validation may constantly seek external approval and lose interest once validation fades. Trauma, neglect, abandonment, insecurity, all these invisible psychological wounds shape adult behavior more than most people realize. Sometimes when someone pulls away, you are witnessing unresolved trauma patterns playing out beneath the surface. And then there's the role of self-worth. People often lose interest in others after losing respect for themselves. This sounds strange, but psychology repeatedly shows that internal emotional states affect external attraction. Someone who feels insecure, unhappy, lost, or emotionally broken may begin disconnecting from everyone around them. Their withdrawal isn't always about you. Sometimes they are battling internal emptiness they don't even understand themselves. But because humans naturally personalize rejection, we immediately assume we were the problem. Overthinking makes this entire experience even more destructive. Once someone becomes distant, the brain enters survival mode. You replay conversations, analyze messages, notice tiny behavioral changes, wonder what caused the shift. But the more emotionally anxious you become, the more unstable your behavior often appears. Anxiety changes communication patterns. It creates neediness, emotional pressure, and fear-based reactions. Ironically, the fear of losing someone can accelerate the very outcome you're trying to prevent. This is why emotional control is one of the most powerful psychological skills a person can develop. One of the darkest truths about human nature is that people are often more attracted to emotional challenge than emotional comfort. This doesn't mean being toxic is attractive. It means the brain values emotional stimulation. Predictability can feel emotionally invisible over time. That's why confidence, ambition, mystery, growth, independence, and emotional stability are attractive traits. They create psychological tension. They stimulate curiosity. They make a person feel mentally engaging instead of emotionally dependent. And here's something nobody tells you. Sometimes losing someone's interest is actually protection. Not every person who walks away was meant to stay. Some people enter your life only for a season, a lesson, or an emotional experience. The pain comes from expecting permanence in a world where human emotions constantly evolve. But understanding psychology changes the way you experience rejection. Instead of seeing it as proof that you are unworthy, you begin seeing it as information about human behavior. People are constantly changing. Their priorities change. Their emotional needs change. Their identities change. The version of someone who once adored you may no longer psychologically exist months later. This is why attachment can become dangerous when your self-worth depends entirely on external attention. The moment someone changes, your identity collapses with them. But emotionally intelligent people understand something powerful. Attraction is unstable, but self-worth should never be. The strongest individuals are not the ones who never experience rejection. They are the ones who understand that another person's loss of interest does not define their value. Human emotions are influenced by biology, trauma, insecurity, dopamine, fantasy, novelty, emotional maturity, childhood conditioning, and internal conflict. There are forces shaping people's behavior that have absolutely nothing to do with your worth as a human being. And maybe the most important thing to understand is this. Chasing people who are emotionally withdrawing often destroys your peace faster than losing them ever could. There comes a moment where protecting your mental health becomes more important than trying to force emotional connection. Real attraction cannot be begged for. Real emotional connection does not require constant anxiety, confusion, or emotional exhaustion. People who genuinely value you do not consistently make you feel invisible. So if someone suddenly lost interest in you, don't immediately destroy yourself searching for answers. Sometimes the reason is psychological adaptation. Sometimes emotional immaturity. Sometimes unresolved trauma. Sometimes loss of mystery. Sometimes internal chaos. And sometimes people simply change. But no matter what the reason is, never let someone else's inability to recognize your value become proof that you have none. Because the moment you build your identity around external validation, you hand your emotional stability to people who were never meant to control it in the first place. The truth is, human psychology is complicated. People crave connection, but fear vulnerability. They seek love, but run from stability. They want attention, but lose appreciation for consistency. And understanding this won't remove the pain completely, but it will stop you from blaming yourself for every emotional shift that happens in someone else's mind.